Hi and welcome back to another Gaming Memories video. It was a few weeks into my journey pretty much playing the PlayStation, and I was getting used to the fact that I was getting to experience so many cool things with the console, and I knew myself that there was more yet to experience. So after a few weeks I was round with my mate Marks that I originally got to play the PlayStation for the first time on, and he had rented out actually Ridge Racer Revolution, and I know that I had played the original Ridge Racer a couple of weeks back and I thought it was pretty awesome, but then to actually see this here, and I was kind of like, because originally at first when I seen the case for it, my mate showed me the case, he's like, dude, you have this here as well. He says, you know, that's a few goes of this. I was like, oh sweet. He says, did I not play this one already? And he's like, did you play the first one? And I was like, well yeah, I played one of them, he says, but I didn't know which one it was actually, because they looked very, very similar. And he says, oh no, this would be the newer one. I was like, alright, cool. So instantly when I played it, it looked instantly familiar, but the graphics were slightly different. They were actually a bit smoother, and there was a little bit more detail in terms of the backgrounds and so forth. And it felt a little bit faster, plus actually the tracks themselves as the racing on, as you can see, they were definitely a lot more intricate, and they were faster as well and a wee bit longer, which is pretty cool. The one thing I did like about the original game was the fact that as you're driving around you got the banners like you can see there, where they're actually promoting the game, or they're promoting other games that would have been made by the developer at the time. Was it Namco? And I thought that was pretty cool. As you can see, another one here promoting another game, Air Combat. I actually thought that was a really cool feature to have in games, the fact is that they were promoting other games through the games that they currently had, which I thought was quite unique as well. Like, that was the whole cool thing I was getting familiar with the PlayStation, was the fact is that it was just, there was so much room there for just to get your eyes on pretty much everything that was there to offer. But as I was playing the game, I was like, you know what, this is actually really cool, but it was definitely difficult, because I know myself, I struggled to play the original Ridge Racer. It took quite a while to get really familiar with it, and this one here was no exception. It was actually harder, and this one here, it took quite a while to actually get through the races. Essentially it's kind of the same premise as the first one, where you have the one track, but as you go up in the difficulty you can spin off into different sections. Other sections will open up depending on which difficulty you choose. Essentially, compared to the first one, they only had two versions of the same track where it would open up and you play through the same versions. But in this one here, when you went up to easy, medium and hard difficulty, you would actually get a completely different version of the track. Essentially you would start off in the same area, but you would open up to a completely different version. So technically you got 3 different tracks compared to the first one. So played this for a while and definitely enjoying it, I have to say, like, but it was definitely a lot tougher than the last one that I had played, and it took a lot longer to actually get through all the 3 tracks, because you have to unlock, you say like the last one, you can unlock the reverse mode after you've completed originally the 3 tracks, but in order to do that you have to finish first in every single track in order to do that. And like the last game, essentially it loaded up extra features, and even that you got to do a couple of extra races, like in the time trials where you got to race against like the demon car again that you had in the original one, like the super fast car, and you had to try and beat it. But it was definitely a lot harder in this game. I think of all the times I played it, like going on through later on in the years, I think I only ever done it the once, and I was just purely lucky just to actually get it. There was like unique tricks in this one here compared to the first one, that depending on the button combinations, that you could actually have a rear view mirror, but you had to go into the pause menu and you had to press a couple of buttons. I can't quite remember what they were off the top of my head, but you could actually set up like a rear view mirror, so at least you could see what was actually coming behind you, or you could make it disappear. But essentially it was also like the first game, where you could literally set it up where you could drive off at the start and go so far. I think once you reached over 60 or 70 miles an hour, you could drive through a wall at the start, and then it would go into like a mirror mode as well, so you could drive the track like in the opposite kind of direction, which is a pretty cool feature as well. Just added a little bit more to the playability of the game. But I have to say, like, the one thing I love about these old Ridge Racer games, again, they're just pure arcade fun, and it's just, they really are simplistic, even though they may be difficult when you first get used to them. But they are what they are. They're just simplistic in their nature and how they actually play, and they're really just fun to just pick up. There's no airs and graces about them. They are what they are. They present a challenge, but they're fun. That's the one thing I really liked about them. And again, considering this was a sequel, and this one was actually released not long after, actually only a few months after the launch of the PlayStation. Like, the original Ridge Racer had already been released at this point, but I think a few months in, this one here was released not too long after that as well, in early 1996, roughly only about 6 months I think into the PlayStation when it came out in likes of the UK and the US and so forth. But even at that, as I played through this one here, it kind of felt more like an add-on like you would see in today's games, more than an actual full game. That's what it kind of did feel like, because essentially the exact same cars, just the track was different and the layout was different. But even at that, back then it didn't really matter, because to play something like this here that was different and so unique at the time, and the fact that you were experiencing all these things for the first time as well, was immense. And it was a really unique feeling that you had for like playing games and so forth, especially when you like going back to playing likes of old 2D games like on the Sega Master System and Mega Drive, and whatever version of a 3D game you might have got to play that on those days would have been nothing compared to what you were pretty much seeing here right now. So it was brilliant, like. So again, as you're going through here, you can see, going through the tracks, you can see it's gone off to a different section, and it definitely gets more difficult. The time of day changes as you're going through the track as well, which is pretty cool. So even at that, it was quite dynamic even for its day, which was unheard of, like. And the tracks definitely were a lot more bendy and twisty, so it was definitely a lot more difficult in terms of how you could judge the corners. It definitely took quite a few tries to literally get the hang of it, and you can see even now, like, I'm crashing all the time because I haven't played this in a long time, and I struggled even back then, even when I did play a lot. Because I have to say, like, even as good of a game as it is a tough game to master. Even to this day, it's still quite a tough game to play. Even compared to the first one. The first one was a really tough game in terms of when you wanted to unlock everything in the game. But this here was definitely a step up from that. But it was still pretty awesome. Again, it had the drift mechanics and everything in it as well that was taken in the first one. So you pretty much felt right at home. The handling of the cars didn't really change all that much compared to the first game. It was just the layout of the tracks and the graphics that made it feel a little bit different, because everything just felt a little bit smoother, and you had more elements going on in the backgrounds of the environments compared to the first game. Like, see here, you had mountains, you had buildings, you had more tunnels and different shapes of areas and stuff that you're going through, like even going over cliff edges and stuff. So it was pretty cool. And again, like, the tracks could get wider or narrower depending on what part of the track you were on as well, which definitely made it all the more difficult to try and judge all the corners without crashing. It definitely wasn't an easy game by any stretch. Another one of the cool options as well is if you wanted to, you could play like with a manual mode where you can manually change the gears. You used to be able to use the shoulder buttons to change the gears, but even I will admit I remember trying to do that in a couple of the races, and yeah, it was, you could change the gears, but you get to change them back. Then when you crash and you realise, oh crap, you realise you had to actually go and do everything again and slow you down. So I usually just stuck to the automatic gears, even though the car was a wee bit slow, but it was just, you didn't have to worry about having to think of too much, because back then having so many buttons on the controller for me was unheard of. You were used to literally like 2 or 3 buttons on the Master System or Mega Drive controllers. Maybe with the Super Nintendo I used to play, I remember I used to play Mortal Kombat and I had shoulder buttons, and then, but even at that it wasn't as intricate as the PlayStation, so being able to have to remember so many button combinations was crazy, especially in a racing game as well, when you're just trying so hard to just focus on the one thing you were doing, which was trying to win. As you can see here, as I played on the harder difficulty, the track opens up again into a different segment, and it just is more difficult as well compared to the previous 2 tracks. Plus I crash a lot too, so it shows I'm definitely very rusty. I haven't played it in a long time. As you can see here, as the weather even changes, it gets even darker as well. That was the cool thing I liked about this game, and it actually affected how you actually drove on the track, because it was harder to judge the corners the darker it got. And as you can see as well, even like there was a lot more jumps and dips in the track, so a lot of the times you'd forget where you actually were on the track at a given time, and it was harder to judge, say, the corners, or even judge exactly where you were. So if you knew if you were going too fast around the corner, you would hit a wall or you just go flying into a barrier. So there was definitely a lot more to be aware of. Which was a pretty cool effect, especially considering it definitely affected how you played the longer you were into a race. Now I have to say, now I really did enjoy this game, even though it was really difficult. Because I do remember when I was down in my mate's house, we definitely played it, myself and my mate Mark definitely played this for quite a while, and it was tough, really tough. So yeah. You'll have to excuse me poor driving. I'm not as good at this game as I used to be. It's funny, I find going back to playing these old games now. When back in the day I would play the life out of them, and I actually got quite good at them, but now when I play like modern games and I go back to play these, I sometimes actually do struggle to play these now. I'd be like, how was I able to play them, and why was I so good at them back then, and why am I not able to pick it up then? But I suppose when back then, because it was all new and it was a novelty, you were eager to get into every game that you played, and because I was enjoying the experience and everything was new, I was eager to literally just get stuck into every game and just give it my best all the time. And I'll be honest, I was, for the first couple of months, even for as long as I was playing the PS1, and I remember even going back to my original experiences, I was addicted to playing the console. So every game I got to play at that point was a privilege, so I just made the most of it. So it's definitely worthwhile. So if you haven't played Ridge Racer Revolution, definitely, again, it's another classic that's worth looking into. I highly recommend it, especially as part of the Ridge Racer series, so yeah, definitely give it a go. So if you like this video, make sure to definitely hit that like button, and also subscribe for more videos like this here, as I will be adding more videos here to show you more of the PlayStation and its history and my memories of it as well. So until next time, make sure to keep those gaming memories alive.